Whenever you're ready, Chair.
Good morning all. Welcome to the meeting of the Planning Committee on the 19th of July 2022. I'm Councillor Chris James. I'm Chair of the Planning Committee. Please ensure your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. If any members would like to speak, can you please raise your electronic hand or indicate in the chat function that you'd like to speak. And please remember, turn your microphones off at all times unless speaking, and your mobile phones switched to silent, please. So agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest at all today?
I see no hands raised, Chair.
Okay, fantastic. Next item then is item 3. Are there any, with the one item today, are there any members wishing to suggest a site visit for the application that's presented today?
Again, I see no hands, Chair.
Oh, okay. So moving on to the next item, which is item 4 on the agenda, which is plan application 2022-0122, Windsor Lodge. This covers pages 5 and 16. So we'd like the planning officer to give a report now, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you all for coming today. This is application P 2022-122. It's for the change of use of a dwelling to a residential care home for adults aged between 19 and 64, which is a change of use C3 to C2. It creates 4 self-contained assisted living units. It gives demolition of existing conservatory and construction of a single-storey side extension, additional dormer window to the rear elevation of the roof slope, garage conversion to provide staff facilities, and construction of replacement flat roof to existing rear extension with increase in height, plus the construction of a new entrance steps of ramps and associated engineering works and areas of hard standing. The location of the property is Windsor Lodge, the Avenue, Carmarthen, and the applicant is Orbis Education and Care. This is a full application for the development. This application has obviously been called to Planning Committee due to be called by Councillor Misen for the reason of traffic and other issues associated with the proposed use. So the application comprises a 2-storey dwelling. So I'll put the presentation up for you now to see. Can I check that you can see that now?
Yes, Chris, I confirm we can see that. Thank you.
Okay, so it's a 2-storey, 5-bedroom dwelling. You can see the application site there, with the application site edge red in quite a large curtilage of the development. It's off a access lane, which is located close to the junction of the Avenue and Hale Marbon. The application site is located within the open countryside, and the settlement boundaries, in terms of settlement limits, follow the back of Hale Avenue, the Avenue and Hale Marbon. You can see the location of the property here on this aerial photo. So this is the property here with this curtilage. There's adjacent property here and farm buildings, and then the other residential properties within the settlement limit are located there at the bottom of the screen. So for the remaining site boundaries are separated by agricultural land. The nearest houses, apart from the adjacent farm property Taicanol, are located approximately 75 metres to the south. You will note from the planning history a previous application was submitted back in 1999 to turn this property from a residential dwelling into a 10-person home for the elderly. There's no evidence that application, whilst it was approved, there's no evidence that application was actually implemented. So it appears from council tax records the property has always remained within a residential use. So we've had a number of representations. We've had a representation from a member of the Senedd on behalf of 25 constituents in relation to the access and other issues in terms of amenity to adjoining properties.
Chris, I'm sorry, could I just stop you there one moment? We've just had notification from Councillor Misen that his sound has gone.
Right, okay.
I'm aware that Councillor Sarah Thomas is having issues as well with her system. Would it be okay if we just try to get Councillor Sarah Thomas
Yeah.
into the meeting and Councillor Mason's sound to work? Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem.
So sorry to stop you there. Right, okay, let's have a look at Councillor Mason. Councillor Mason, can you let me know via the chat what's happening with you, please? Councillor Mason is still in the meeting, but appears to not be able to speak or hear.
Tammy, I wonder, forgive me, Mr. Chair, would it be helpful if Councillor Miserman to sign out and sign back in?
That's a very good idea, Mike. Yeah, Councillor Mason, if you can hear us, can you sign back out and sign back in, please? As Mike suggested. Councillor Mason, just for your help, I'm going to remove you from the meeting. If you can rejoin, then hopefully you will have sound and everything will be okay. So just removing you from the meeting, please rejoin. Yeah, we should see if that works. And I'm also calling Councillor Sarah Thomas back in because she should have rebooted by now. Apologies for this, Chair and Chris. It's the heat.
They did warn that Wi-Fi networks and stuff could play up.
That's very true, yeah. Yes. Oh, Councillor Mason is back in the meeting now. Can you hear us, Councillor Mason? You're on mute if you want to take yourself off mute and let us know. Councillor Sarah Thomas has joined the meeting. Excellent.
Just so you know, I'm joining from my phone at the minute because I need to reboot the laptop. It's definitely not playing.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. We're also having problems with Councillor Mason at the moment, so we're just waiting for him to reboot as well. So that,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, it just takes so long. I was hoping to fix it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Thomas, are you happy to continue on your phone?
Yes. Will you be able to let me in on the computer once I've rebooted?
Hopefully.
Like, will it let me
I'm
in?
just wondering if maybe it's better if we just continue on your phone.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we are. Okay, fab. There we are. Well, I don't know what's happened to Councillor Mason. And fortunately, we are quorate without Councillor Mason, so it might be better just to continue, Chair, if that's okay with you. I am aware of the time this is taking and the heat for everybody. Up to you, Chair.
I think we just give it 2 more minutes because obviously it was Councillor Mason called this one in.
Of course, no problem. Thanks, Chair.
Back in.
If it's all right, Mr. Chair, I see that Councillor Misen has actually dropped a message into the box saying laptop is saying cannot find microphone. So perhaps there is a heat-related glitch there.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I come in here? I wondered if it would be easier for him to join the meeting via his iPad, perhaps.
But suggest that.
Good idea, yes. Councillor Mason, let us know in the chat what you're going to do, if that's okay.
Just in case you can't hear us.
Thank you, Chair.
Maybe he's just attempting via his iPad. Chris, when we when we start back up, I don't know if it'd be worth going back a page just to make sure.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just start from near the beginning.
Thank you, Chris. I'll ensure that Councillor Thomas has heard all of the item then as well. Thank you.
I promise I did read everything.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm on my iPad now, so I'm going to.
Oh. Brilliant, cheers.
There we are, Chair, when you're ready then.
I'm ready whenever you're ready, Chris. Would you like to restart the presentation?
Okay, thanks. So the application is P 2022-0122 for change of use of a dwelling to a residential care home for adults, creating 4 self-contained assisted living units plus extensions and alterations at Windsor Lodge, the Avenue, Carmarthen. So the application has been called to committee by Councillor Mason for reasons of traffic and potential other problems associated with the proposed use. So the application site is identified there on the location plan. There's an existing 5-bedroom dwelling, and you'll see it's quite an extensive curtilage around there, marked in red on that plan. The property is located to the north of the settlement boundary within the ward of Bryn and Carmarthen, located within the open countryside outside of settlement limits. The nearest residential property is located to the east, which is Canol Farm, and the farm buildings there are located on the plan. The main residential conurbation then is located to the south of the avenue and Hale Marbon. The aerial photo there just identifies there's the application property itself with its curtilage. You'll see the existing settlement below to the south, and obviously the farm complex there of Canol. So in terms of the application use, the proposal does not fall within use class C2, and thereby the proposal will not fall within any of the use classes, but within use class C2 and not within use class C3, which would be its residential property, as the use is for adults utilising self-contained assisted living units, and thereby cannot operate as a household without adult care or supervision on a 24-hour basis, thereby requiring a change of use. In relation to the need for the development, the applicant states this need has been identified by the local authority adult services via portal referrals, and the applicants work closely with the Care Inspectorate Wales to ensure residents are housed in appropriate locations relevant to their care requirements. The property itself will run as a care facility, and whilst outside of settlement limits will basically still be a residential form of use, similar to what the existing property is as a residential dwelling. So there's in terms of compliance with open countryside policies, the proposal would be compliant. It's not new development within the open countryside, so thereby is considered in principle to be acceptable. In terms of visual amenity, there's changes being made to the building. I'll just run through a couple of the plans there for you. So you've got the existing ground floor plan, the existing first floor plan. See the proposed ground floor plan. The lighter colour there is entrance and staff facilities. You'll see the garage located here. This is being converted into additional staff room. And then the darker colour there are 3 self-contained residential units on the ground floor. You also notice there the car parking, cycle storage, bin stores located within the curtilage immediately surrounding the property. At first floor then there's an additional 4th unit, and you'll see that there's a dormer located to the rear, which is part of the proposals. So these are the existing elevation plans. You'll see 3 dormers located on both sides elevation and the conservatory to the side. The proposed elevation plans. So there's 4 dormers on this side with the additional dormer shown, and then obviously the conservatory is replaced by the single-storey side extension. They've identified biodiversity enhancements as part of the proposal as well. So they've got bat and bird boxes going to be located on the property. So in terms of visual amenity, the property will remain looking like a residential property, and it's not considered that any of the changes proposed will have any impact on the character of the property in terms of its residential character or appearance. In terms of parking and access requirements, policy TR2 relates to highway and pedestrian issues. The highway section have assessed the application and raised no objection, subject to provision of 4 car parking spaces. The highway officer notes the dwelling currently has 5 bedrooms with the potential for up to 5 cars to travel to and for the property multiple times a day, and that the proposal would accommodate 4 long-term residents with the maximum staff being there as 4 at any one time. So there's 2 full-time staff on site with 4 at shift handover. So it's considered in terms of the scale of the development proposed, it's not significantly different from the residential use that the property is currently in, and that it wouldn't therefore result in any significant difference in terms of traffic movements back and forth. On the photos that I've got on the screen now, you'll see the access lane located close to the junction. Obviously, that is the access to the proposed property. And these are typical examples of the lane as you drive up it and looking back towards Hale Marbon. And that's the garage that they're proposing to convert to a staff room. So other issues that have been raised during the application, obviously biodiversity. As I touched on earlier, we've got the biodiversity enhancements. In terms of objections and comments on the application, we've received a representation on behalf of a member of the Senedd on behalf of 21 of the constituents relating to the access impacts upon then the amenity of adjoining properties through the use being located in that area. We've also received 34 other representations, and those issues are summarised on page 7 and 8 of the report before you. I just run through these briefly. We've got traffic, congestion and parking, noise and disturbance, drainage, lack of information on the application, overlooking the potential further development, biodiversity, and then other issues in terms of devaluing property, and that there's no need for the facility as there's other facilities in the area. So we've received no objections from any of our statutory consultees, including highways. All of those matters are set out in the report. In terms of our recommendation, the proposal we think identifies the need for supported living within the county borough, and one in which its scale and character will not detract from the overall residential appearance of the property within this rural setting. We think that in terms of the balance of providing off-street car parking, it's sufficient to address the staff that would be attending the property on a 24-hour basis. In terms of the use itself, it's not considered that there would be any significant detrimental impacts upon adjoining properties through the use of the property, and there's no issues in terms of overlooking or loss of amenity through any of the changes proposed. So I'll just run through a couple of these photos. The parking area and hard standing to the side of the to the south of the property are located there with you can see the property in the distance. This is the area that's already there in terms of the lane there is by the car. So you'll see the lane entrance is there and the property siding on here. And then that's the outlook from the back of the property to the south. So our recommendation before you today is one of approval subject to conditions. You'll see the conditions set out on page 16. We've addressed the requirement for the car parking, the biodiversity enhancements, and obviously restricting the use within use class C2 for a maximum of 4 residents only. So that basically that's considered to be our recommendation here before us today, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. I see Councillor Thomas' hands raised. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions shortly. But first, I'd like to go to the local member if you'd like to say anything now to the committee.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was, it was brought to me by a couple of the residents came a few months ago when the planning petition came out, planning application came out, and they showed concerns to me, and I wrote them down. Actually, I thought there'd be somebody to speak on behalf of the residents, but obviously there's not. Yeah, it's just mainly, I suppose they are objections, but mainly they are concerns. We fully understand that these adults need somewhere to live, and we fully support the need for supported living in the borough. But we've got one already in Carmarthen, another one will pass. This will make it 3. I think we do now a bit. Anyway, come back to this. Yeah, it's the noise is one issue. The farm there is only 30 meters away. It's only 30 meters away from this building here, and we know from the Orbis down in Coy Park House that unfortunately there's some distressing noises coming from there. People in Pine Valley have been visibly upset by these noises, and that's a downside further away than 30 meters. I tell you that now. Sound travels. It's 30 meters to the farm. It's 75 meters then down to the avenue, and a little bit further to Tai Canol, the cul-de-sac. So the sound will travel if there is sound. Visual immunity is nothing, as we all understand that. The traffic problem is one, because it is a bit of a blind bend. I understand obviously that people are living there now, so they got to come in and out anyway. But obviously with 4 staff and 2 in all the time, is it full time? Yeah. There's going to be a lot of changeovers there. And you see the lane is narrow. So I don't. Is there plans to widen the lane? I don't know. But there's always cars parked on Hill Marbon as well, right opposite that junction. They're not on the photos, but invariably when I walk around, there's never any gaps there. There's always cars parked there, and it is the main bus route, so it is a busy road. You know what I mean? So it's listen. I know we need these places, okay, and it is an open space. I'm just doing my duty on behalf of my residents to come and put their case forward here as good as I can. So I understand the weather is now, so I'm not going to keep it any longer. The main ones are the traffic there and the noise. So I just leave it at that. Thank you, committee, and thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Before I come to the Councillor Thomas and Councillor Bowen, I see Chris, you raise your hand again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to address the comments that Councillor Mason's made. Obviously, each application is looked at on its own merits. Each site will have different types of accommodation and to serve different needs within that healthcare provision. As a 5-bedroom dwelling, obviously it's quite a substantial dwelling, so there could be noise and disturbance from the use of it as a property. It's not considered that this would result in significant noise or disturbance over and above what would be at a usual residential home. Whilst your comments are noted, it's not considered that would be a justified reason for recommending refusal here today. The property is located some distance away from the main residential conurbation, and obviously there is a residential property opposite, but it is located within an area of other farm buildings, and there is a lot of comings and goings and movement associated with that. So obviously the residents in Jew would have to understand that there's obviously disturbance from the farm operation opposite also, but it's not considered that in terms of the actual use that there would be any justified or any evidence based to show that this would create a noise and disturbance which would be detrimental to residential amenities so significant to warrant a recommendation of refusal. I'll touch on the traffic issue, but then I'll probably bring Justin in to give you more details. Obviously, the fallback position here is a 5-bedroom dwelling. So obviously that has a level of parking requirement for it, and it has a traffic movement associated with it. And obviously some residential properties have limited traffic movements, and others you have people back and forth all the time. So the use of the lane for that property is already in place, and we obviously have to look at the difference between this existing property, the scale of and character of the use proposed, and compare that with the existing use. And I think that's what Highways have done. And I think that the view is that as it's only 4 residents and there would only ever be 4 members of staff there at any one time, we've got car parking to facilitate that. Additional parking would turn this into what would be more of a commercial activity. And I think that if you provided more parking to serve this site, you're then changing the character of the area to the detriment of the rural location that it's in. So I think it's just finding the right balance there. But in terms of the use of the lane and the junction and the other issues I've raised, I was wondering if Justin could just come in and make a comment on that for me, please.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chair. Morning, members and colleagues. Just want to go. I think Chris has more or less said it all, to be honest with you. He touched upon the fact that it does comply with TR2, the policy, in terms of us when we assess the actual access granted. It's not the ideal access we want for any entrance going into a property. It is existing. It's an established use at the end of the day. It's also facilitating a 5-bedroom, which we looked at and assessed. At any given time, there will be 4 parking spaces, so it's a like-for-like basis. The actual turnaround of staff will be timely as well. So there'll only be certain times of the day there won't be a common thread of back and forth traffic there, any different to when a normal residential dwelling would be there. In terms of the access and parking, Councillor Mason touched upon a valid point there with people parking on the existing highway itself. Obviously, we have got the highway code, which people should be adhering to in terms of parking near junctions. But if there's a common problem there, then obviously we can look at it as a council through engineering to maybe factor in some traffic regulation orders if this persists in the future, separate to this planning application, of course, and independent of this application. But I just wanted to touch upon that, having been enlightened to the fact that there's a problem with parking on the public highway there. So I just wanted to give Councillor Mason some sage advice, then, I suppose, if I may. But yeah, we fully support the application. It's well within the policy. From Highways' point of view, the established use, there's not much to say about it, to be honest with you. And certainly, if it did go to appeal, we'd really struggle, to obviously win that, I suppose. But yeah, we fully support it and endorse it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, just a quick one. If you would like to speak at all, have any questions, can you raise your electronic hand or indicate in the chat that you want to ask a question? We can't take questions from the chat, sorry. Okay, so we're going to members' questions now, and I did have indications.
Yes, Chair, Councillor Sarah Thomas.
Sarah
First.
Thomas, feel like go first, you've been quite patient there.
Hiya. So I was a bit concerned. There's quite a lot of mention in the documents about the access and the lane and it not being safe. It looks fine on maps. It looks fine on Street View. It looks fine in the photos. And has somebody actually gone and assessed it?
Would you like me to come back in on this, Chris and Chair?
Please, Justin.
Okay, yeah, we would have part of the consultation process for any application which Highways get a consultation on. A member of my staff would go out on site and do an assessment on any access leading to any particular development or an entrance, just an overview assessment of it, and take into account our guidance and obviously our opinion as well professionally, to look at these sites. So yes, we would have assessed the access road going up to it and taken everything into concern to form part of our observations, in this case of approval back to planning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Justin. I've got Councillor Bowen now.
Yes, good morning and thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Last time planning was given to change this property over to, I believe, a care home. Was there objections at that time? If someone could give me some information on that.
That application was back in, let me have a look. So that application was back in 1989. Unfortunately, I don't know the details of whether we had any objection. Obviously, that application was approved, but we've checked with our council tax records, and the property has always remained within a residential use, so it doesn't look as if that application was ever implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Chris. Councillor Ros Davis.
I'm just wondering, there are 4 parking spaces there. Is there any room for visitors to be able to park on the site as well if they happen to be there in the day when the staff have parked as well?
Okay, would you like me to come in again, Chair?
Yeah, please, sure.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Davis. Basically, there is ample space within the curtilage of the development to cope with additional parking should it needed, but I very much doubt under the use class of this and the circumstances around the use class of this, there would be very little visitors other than professionals going to and from the actual dwelling itself. I may be wrong in saying that, Chris, but that's my understanding, of course. But there is plenty of land there to use, but there will be 4 designated parking spaces, which would be the requirement for such a use. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Justin. Councillor Patterson. Oh, sorry, Councillor Patterson. Did you want to come back in there, Chris, on that?
Yeah, I was going to say that note as well that obviously there's only 2 staff on site at any one time, and there's 4 on changeover. So obviously 2 new staff come in on changeover. So predominantly most of the time there will be 2 spare spaces on site. But as Justin pointed out, there's quite a large area there in which people could park. I mean, we can't presume there won't be visitors, because obviously this facility is something to allow people to have a sense of their own place, to have their own home, but with that extra care and help that they can, they obviously can't manage on their own. So it may well be that currently they're either in a care home, or they're being cared for at a residential property, and it's beyond the facilities of the parents or whatever to be able to carry on and look after them. So it may well be that they do get visitors at the property, but I think predominantly most of the time those changeovers will be at a time when it's kind of night shift, day shift type thing. So when you would have visitors there would be at least 2 spaces, but as Justin pointed out, there is a large area there where additional parking could occur anyway.
Did you want to add to that again, Justin?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, for indulging me with further comments. In addition, and notwithstanding what we've already discussed regarding parking and access issues, the access is currently sufficient as well for emergency services. Should they wish to attend in an emergency, there's plenty of space there for them to manoeuvre in and out as well in the forward gear, as well as use the access lane. I just wanted to add that into the mix as well. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Justin. Sorry, Councillor Patterson. I'll try not to cut you off.
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you. I understand. Yeah, it's not a question, Chair. It's just a comment on the application. As even Councillor Misen, who has asked for it to be called in, these facilities are required throughout the county borough. It seems a very, may I say, idyllic sort of location for this type of development. I can't see hardly any difference between a five-bedroomed residential house and what is proposed here with regards to traffic journeys. If anything, I see fewer from previous experience of what's happened in this type of application. I have no objections to the recommendation, and I will be happy to propose at the due time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On the issue of potential noise and other facilities, residents complaining about other facilities generating additional noise over and above what would be expected from a normal residential facility, are there any considerations within the plans for any kind of acoustic insulation or acoustic mitigation measures, just to keep the noise down for the neighbouring farm in particular, which I know although the farmhouse is 30 metres away, there are another, they do look from the plans to be other farm buildings that are closer, which may contain livestock that could be disturbed and so on. So has there been any consideration of that in the plans?
Chris Davis, see your hand up there.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, the use is no different to any other residential use, and as a subdivision of a property into 4 self-contained units, obviously building control look at building regulations and have set requirements in terms of fire safety and standards. They may well require certain acoustic levels within the building. But outside of that, no, it's not considered that due to the scale of the proposal that there would be any significant difference between the use of this property than any other. And I think from our view, if we then started looking at acoustic fencing around the site and things like that, you're then changing the whole character of the area, and I think that would be detrimental to everything about what they're trying to achieve. This isn't a secure unit where you're trying to lock people in. You're trying to give them a sense of their own kind of place and a way of living. Plus you've also got staff on site 24 hours a day, and obviously just knowing what my children are like probably in the house while I'm not there today, then perhaps they need a member of staff there to keep the noise down and control them while they're causing chaos in the house on their own today. But they will have staff there, so any issue that would arise, there's someone there to deal with it. And I'm sure that residents will get to know these people as a part of their community and know how to raise any concerns or issues directly with the staff on site. But they're there to deal with any problem as it occurs, which is unlike if it was rented out as a 5-bed property, trying to get hold of a landlord to address an issue with an unruly resident who's letting his kids run around the farm is going to be much more difficult to deal with, whereas this has on-site supervision 24 hours a day. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I saw Councillor Keogh raised his hand. Did you want to speak, Councillor Keogh?
Yes, okay. What I was going to say is that, I agree with Suzanne. I want to say these applications come in and we see all sorts of applications. But if it had been a residential use, this would have been gone to delegated panel. It wouldn't even come before this committee. The moment you put care home in front of the application, then all hell breaks loose. People misunderstand what they're reading. They've got to look at it in its entirety, and as Suzanne said, I don't see a problem with this. But when the time comes, I will second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. I see no more hands. Before I go look for a proposal in a second,
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. If I could just come in at this point.
yeah.
I have noticed that there are a couple of questions in the chat, so I just want to give those members the opportunity to ask verbally, if that's okay, because as members are aware, the chat isn't recorded anywhere, so the public won't have sight of those questions when this meeting is aired. So we have a question I've got here from Councillor Carl Jordan. Councillor Jordan, do you still want to ask your question?
Yeah, my future son was quite knowledgeable of the Carmarthen area and the premises in question. There's an existing lane, obviously, with access to the property. Does the property owner actually own the lane to it, or is it sort of a shared driveway to the farm and the house? And also on the avenue side of it, there's an existing tree line which would probably curb the sort of outlook from the houses in the avenue looking back up to the planning application.
Chris, do you answer that best?
I believe, and perhaps Kitty will. Kitty is on the meeting today, and she's the case officer. But my understanding is that they probably have rights of access to the lane as an existing property. Normally, they all properties who have access onto it would have a right of access onto it, but I'm not sure if they're the actual owners. Is that correct, Kitty?
How do I speak?
There we are. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. But, yes, they have a right of access on that lane. They don't own the lane. And someone mentioned in the chat about provisions. There are no provisions to widen the lane. And additionally, the tree line.
We've lost you, Kitty. Can you hear us?
You can't.
Kitty,
Yep.
your connection is breaking up, but
Hello?
we can hear you again now. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, continue. Thank
Okay.
you.
So they don't own the road. They have a right of access. There's no plans to widen it, and there is tree screening at the base of the field. From the pictures that Chris showed, you can't see the properties, so you would have thought it would be quite good screening for noise and visual impacts for the properties below. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thanks, Kitty.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly, you know, to try and maintain and keep the sort of the impact lessened with the by sort of putting a TPO on the trees so that they can't be sort of trimmed back, and obviously increase the view to the property, which would be detrimental to the ones that are sat below it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a consideration that we can have outside of this application. Obviously, if trees are worthy of protection, there's criteria in which we'd have to assess that against. But in terms of the distances, obviously there'd be no justification under this application to TPO the trees. But that's certainly something that residents or anyone or the local members can put forward as a request, and we can have that assessed by a arboriculturalist independently of this if they think that the trees are potentially at risk and are worthy of protection. But obviously, as it is, it's not considered that would be necessary under this application due to the distances involved between the properties in question.
Yes,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. And finally, from the chat, Councillor Sarah Thomas just wanted confirmation that this home is for adults aged 19 to 64, please.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. That's all the questions from the chat.
Thanks. Okay. If nobody else would like to speak, then we'll move on. I think we've already had a nomination of proposer, a second proposer, Councillor Patterson. Seconded.
Yes, Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Patterson. And you're happy to second, Councillor Keel?
Yes, I'm happy to second the application. Thank you.
Fantastic. Right, then Tammy, could you please ask each member if they've been present for the whole of this item and how they wish to vote, please?
Certainly, Chair. Thank you. In no particular order, Councillor Chris James, Chair, have you been present for this whole item and how do you wish to vote, please?
I've been present for the whole of this item and I wish to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, Councillor Jeff Jones, same questions to you.
Yes, I've been present all along and I agree with the appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Dennis Keogh, have you been present for the whole of this item and how do you wish to vote, please?
Yes, I've been present for the entire item and I wish to forgotten what I was going to say. Shorter words. I propose yes.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Carl Jordan, please. Same questions.
Yes, I've been present throughout the meeting and I would propose the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Jordan. Councillor Cathy James, please.
Yes, I've been present throughout the item and I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ken Phillips, please.
Yes, I've been present throughout the presentation, throughout the item, and I'm happy to support.
Many thanks. Councillor Ros Davis, please.
Yes, I've been present for the whole item and I'm in favour of the recommendation. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Councillor Davis. Councillor Suzanne Patterson, please.
Yes, thank you, Tammy. I have been here throughout and I vote for the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tim Bowen, please.
Yes, I've been present for the presentation and I support the.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Leanne Jones, please.
Being present and I support.
Thank you. Finally, Councillor Sarah Thomas, I know that you had issues in the beginning, but as you mentioned earlier, you have thoroughly read the report. Are you happy that you've had all the information, and how do you wish to vote, please?
I have indeed had.
Councillor Thomas, we just lost you there. You've gone back onto mute, you have. There, you're off mute now. Can you hear us, Councillor Thomas? We can't hear you at the moment. I'm guessing that Councillor Thomas is having technical difficulties, maybe of the sort that local member Councillor Mason had earlier with the microphone. So, right, Councillor Thomas is trying. I can see there that she's trying to come in and out of mute.
Tammy, have you taken all of the votes so far? Are there any other
Yes.
members to deal with?
No, unless members correct me otherwise, I believe that I have asked all of the voting members.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can. Yes, we can hear you, Councillor
I'm on my
Thomas.
phone.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
in now. So I did indeed get all the information. I was present for the entirety, and I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. That's great. There we are, Chair. I can confirm that that recommendation has been approved.
Okay, thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to section B, matters for information. Agenda's item 5, 6, and 7. We've got the appeals determined, the appeals received, and the delegated decisions. So moving on to agenda item 8, we have no urgent items. So there's no further items on the agenda. Thank you all for coming on this hot, sticky day, this meeting. And well done to everyone. Bye-bye, Dennis. Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all.